Imagine, just for a second, opening your eyes for the very first time. The light is absolutely blinding, the air is freezing cold, and the world smells overwhelmingly of just two things: rosewater and blood. You are literally 11 seconds old.
And as the midwife wipes you clean, your father steps into the room. And here's the kicker. He isn't looking at you with that warm, welcoming smile you'd naturally expect. No, he's looking at you, calculating. He's sizing you up as the most expensive bargaining chip his family will ever produce. Your dowry, the sheer staggering price of your future, is already being meticulously mapped out in his mind. He's looking at you the exact way a man looks at a ledger that just doesn't quite balance. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are going to explore the original accounting system of humanity. We're talking about a system where it wasn't coins or paper money or, digital zeros and ones that made up the debits and credits. It was human lives, blood, bone, and breath.
Section 1. Redefining the ledger. Value, not just money.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Because to truly grasp how history kept the books, we need to completely rewire how we think about value. I want you to stop thinking about those boring numbers on your digital banking screen. Actually, let's stop thinking about money altogether and start thinking about visceral, physical value. Think of a debit not as a charge on your credit card, but as an actual physical addition to your personal world. It is what you hold in your hand, what you possess, or even what you are actively becoming. It firmly anchors to the left side of our metaphorical ledger. It is the value in. It's life giving you something tangible. But here is the catch, and it's a massive one. Accounting at its very core is a strict zero-sum game. Every single time you register a debit, you absolutely must have a credit. And a credit isn't just spending, it is the fundamental source of that value. It's the value out, or the obligation created. For every single thing you pull into your world, something, somewhere, must be given up or promised. It's an inescapable rule. Let's ground this in a modern reality for a second, before we travel back in time. When you buy a coffee today, you're essentially debiting your caffeine asset account, right? On the left column, you physically have more value in your hand. You have the coffee. But on the right column, that debit instantly creates a cost, an obligation, a credit. The money leaves your account to balance the books. Now, what happens when we apply this exact same zero-sum math to human flesh and blood?
Section 2. Sparta's balance sheet. Borrowing your children. Let's move to ancient Sparta and see how this actually builds out. In Sparta, a child wasn't just a little bundle of joy. A child's life was quite literally a physical debit on the state's books. The very moment a child was born, elders would closely inspect their limbs, practically auditing the asset to see if this new human was an addition worth keeping. A Spartan son might have been a debit to a mother's heart, but structurally, legally, he was a credit to the state. The parents were essentially just borrowing him from the government. And as he grew, every time he was forced to sprint until his lungs burned like a roaring furnace, the state was simply debiting his strength account, increasing his total value as a weapon.
But remember our rule. Every debit demands a credit. Every borrowed asset absolutely must be paid back. In Sparta, that repayment came due at a very specific tragic time, age 7. That was the exact moment the government's debt collector arrived at dawn to call in the loan. At 7 years old, the child was taken to the barracks to be completely unmade and rebuilt. The state reclaimed its asset, the books balanced, but the human cost was devastating.
Section 3. The economics of erasure. The Victorian zero balance.
Let's transition from the barracks of ancient Greece to the supposedly refined drawing rooms of the Victorian era. Because, trust me, the ledger was just as ruthless here. Under the Victorian law of coverture, marriage wasn't just a beautiful union of souls, it was a hostile corporate takeover. The very moment the vicar finished speaking his vows, a woman legally ceased to exist, and this brilliantly illustrates the sheer brutality of Victorian accounting. On the husband's debits, on the left, his ledger is flooded with new assets. He subsumes her legal identity, takes her inheritance, he literally even takes possession of the pearl earrings handed down from her mother. But the credit on the right, the source of all that new value for him, her total legal erasure. He credited his authority and she was left with a literal zero balance on the page of her own life.
Section 4. Pricing physical survival. The doctor's toll.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that this accounting system applies to everything, even our physical health. Take a medieval plague doctor.
We often think of these figures as either incredible heroes or outright charlatans, but what they really were extreme risk accountants trying to price survival. On the gain side, the debits, we have soaring reputation and heavy gold reserves. He's pulling immense wealth into his world by treating plague patients. But the sacrifices, the credits, are staggering. He is paying for that gold with his physical safety. He credits joints that scream from years of crouching over the sick, and lungs permanently ruined by the thick herb smoke inside his mask. As the historical sources note, this kind of medieval success was nothing short of poisoned honey. It tastes sweet, sure, but it destroys you from the inside out. It proves the ultimate rule of the human ledger. Every single gain in one column demands a severe, inescapable physical sacrifice in another. You cannot cheat the books. No way. Section 5. Your human ledger, making the columns match. The next time you open your bank app to check your balance, I want you to remember the Spartans, the Victorian brides, and the medieval doctors. Because you aren't just managing money. You are a living, breathing human ledger. Every career move you make, every hour of sleep you skip for success, every single relationship you invest in, every choice is just another attempt to make your columns match before the light goes out for good. A debit is just the world handing you something to hold for a little while. And a credit is the universe reminding you exactly where it came from and what it cost you to get it. So what are the true credits and costs of your modern life? How will you balance your ledger? It's a heavy question, isn't it? But understanding this gives you a completely new lens on history, and honestly, on yourself. If you want to dive deeper and see exactly what happens when the ledger finally breaks, when the state decides your life is a bad debt they simply no longer want to carry, you'll definitely want to stick around. Join us for our next explainer, Your Life as a Spartan Mother, and witness the ultimate historical audition for survival. You absolutely won't want to miss it.